we'd like to welcome you all to our session. And we'd like first to thank the Khalifa Award and the General Secretariat of Khalifa Award on bringing this topic, this hot topic, play-based learning or learning by playing. The early childhood education and playing based learning is the most comprehensive, but at the same time most misinterpreted. Although it has been firmly based on philosophy, theory, and research. The philosophers such as John Amos, Comenius, John Locke, and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, theorists such as Jean Piaget, Vygotsky, Erik Erikson, and educators such as Frederic Frabel and Maria Montessori. This name, Maria Montessori, that is always linked with nurseries and early childhood, contributed to a scientifically based early childhood education, learning in specific. Although their approaches differed, all of them believed in a child-centered learning that would focus on the children's individual needs, abilities, and interests. And here in our beloved UAE, our mother, Her Highness Sheikha Fatma bint Mubarak, known as our al-Imarat, Allah yahfidha, creates and provides opportunities for both child and the families to increase the acceptance of early childhood education and children's play in specific. In addition to this, this opportunity makes it a particularly opportune time for a learning environment or for a children's play. Moreover, there has been an increase in time, energy, and resources across various fields to better understand and communicate thoughts and research findings that contribute to theory and practice on the relationship between play and learning. Definitely, whether it's the digital or physical playing, and whether we are talking about the vast evolvement of the digital games and what is educationally called gamifications. Researchers and educators' enthusiastic interest in children's play continues to persist, and it is expected and it is anticipated that it's going to be expanded in the future, which will have an impact on the preparation of our future generations of early childhood education professionals and children whose ages range from birth to 8 years old. Thus, learning by playing and gamification, or play-based learning, where games and playing is a major tool for early childhood education and a basic element for children's well-being. However, the impact of a play-based learning varied from child to another, or even from community to another. Of course, we mean by community, the learning community to another. And in recent days, paying attention to the type of applications, games, and tools of playing, whether it is digital playing or physical playing, we call it in educational terms the kinesthetic, with all, of course, the other domains that create a safe, rich, and educative environment it's really fundamental to provide young children with the opportunity to express their ideas, symbolize and test their knowledge of the vast world around them. This is just a quick introduction presented by myself, the moderator for today's session with you, Samira Al-Husani. I'm the Director of Humanities and Languages at the Ministry of Education and the Acting Director as well for the Early Childhood Education at the Ministry. So today I would like to raise the attention of this topic, learning by playing. And we'd like to welcome together Ms. Hanadi Al-Yafi, the Director of Child Safety Department in Sharjah. And we'd like to welcome Ms. Hanadi to the session, and thank you for joining us in our session today. And again, special thankfulness and gratitude to Khalifa Award on bringing this hot topic to our session at this time. I'd like to start first, Ms. Hanadi, with a question, or let's start our discussion on the early childhood education. So the domain of learning by playing, how do you see it?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Samira, for the introduction. And I'm honored today to be with you along with the respected audience. Thank you, Khalifa Award Education, for the chance in order to reflect our thoughts on such a very important topic, especially when it comes either at home or outdoor or even in school. Just to give an introduction about where I come from, my name is Hanadi and I'm the Child Safety Director in the Supreme Council for Family Affairs in Sharjah. The Child Safety Department is involved great importance to the safe and play environment when raising awareness. And we would like today to emphasize on it when it comes to a play by learning, and also how that is reflected in the learning or in the educational field. Of course, we mostly know that children or childhood is a very important phase on their lifespan, and plays an important part of child early development. If we're talking about the age group of newborn to 8 years old, this is where the most characteristic level of the child has been built, either from home or even with the school. So it describes a very sensitive period of learning, as well as there are several types of early educational programs, either in a federal or private funded. So play is an important part of child early development. It helps children's brain to develop, and also it is important for their language and communication skill to mature. Researchers found 5 characteristic embody education play experiences, and there are meaningful, actively engaging, joyful, and socially interactive. If you want to identify the learning in terms of researchers, what is learning through play? Researchers found that children develop, as a definition, children develop holistic skills by interacting with people, objects, and representations in actively engaging, joyful, interactive, meaningful, and socially interactive experience. That is one definition found in the research. There is another definition to start with, which is experiences of the child are designed and facilitated to make effective use of available resources and integrated child-led or teacher-guided and teacher-led opportunities. Of course, children, when they learn through their play, there is a huge value of that. It helps develop their cognitive skills like math and problem solving in a pretended grocery store, for example. They gain physical abilities when it comes to balancing blocks and running on the playground. It gain new vocabulary, like the words they need to play with in a toy, for example. And also they gain social skills like playing together in a pretended car wash, for example. They also gain literacy skills like creating a menu of pretended restaurant. So from that list, we know that children gain a range of experiences while play, from being physically active and learning to deal with challenges and take risks. They even learn how to solve problems through learning. Imagine all those skills to be learned through play if that is being implemented in the educational field.
So all what you have mentioned, of course, it makes playing much important nowadays, Ms. Hanadi. In case of course, the time that children were, let's say, under the pandemic and the COVID, that keep them away of playing, and let's say the physical playing. And all what you have mentioned, as you said, just going to the grocery, just picking these very little items from here and there, all these things, of course, make sense for the children. If we'd like to move to the next point from what you have mentioned, from what you have just said, and I'm going to put my hand on this point, exactly the learning loss that appeared in the or during the pandemic. Of course, all the researches, all the studies, and the UNESCO report shows that there is a learning loss, especially in the literacy for the children from, let's say, in early childhood education. And with going now back to schools, with going back to the nurseries, and going back to the kindergartens, of course, the space for the children is reopened, and the child can see it reopened widely. So with this wide open gate of a space now in front of the children, in both virtual space and the real physical space for the child, how, Ms. Hanadi, we can maintain the safe and the safety in playing for the children?
Of course, play, as we said, is an important aspect of any normal child, and the pandemic has took that away from the child during the lockdown. But I'm sure that also gave the chance to the parent to stay with the child and emphasize on containing that child and providing him with one-to-one relationship. And I heard some families were even more closer together throughout the lockdown period. Although knowing the fact that the children need the outdoor and to socialize with other children, just to pinpoint on some scientific-based information, which is neuroscientists also have discovered that the prefrontal cortex in the brain of the child is refined by the play. So even when it comes to the development of the child brain, that is reflected through play. And that is how important developing the brain of that child is important to again emphasize on the play. Also, play interventions are widely used as a treatment for children who struggled with develop socio-emotional skills, including establishing positive peer-to-peer relationship. So I'm sure, or there might be children who suffered from that period of the lockdown where they lack of that type of peer-to-peer relationship through play. But it's never too late to, now that that life is back to almost normal. I would even suggest parents to focus more on that aspect, on avoiding smart devices. I know we can't just let go of the smart devices because it's part of the learning curriculum right now, but at least to take the time and take the advantage of having that age of the child, which I say is a treasure for me as a mother, because children do grow so fast. They grow too fast, and you wouldn't even notice how fast that period goes. So I would highly suggest parent to focus on that period, to even as parent play with your children, play blocks with your children. Even when it comes to online games, we can't, of course, forbid them or stop them from that, because there are also advantages from online games. But it is also better for parents to be aware of the age classifications system that we have in UAE. In 2018, there has been announced a system of classification by the National Media Council that is aimed to protect children from inappropriate content and to make sure that every child see the content that is suitable for their age. The age group of that classifications for the games is from 3, 7, 12, 16, 18, and 21. It can be viewed online for parents to know more about it. I always encourage parents to know more about what their children view as online games. For me, I experienced that with my son. He is 12 and he wanted to play one of the games that is above his age group. Of course, as a mother, and I know some background and experience of how, what the issue or how the child can also have a way to find a solution or to get a way to find what he wants, because as a nature of the child, they are very adventurous, they're risk takers. You know, this is the nature of their child and we cannot take that away. We want them to live their life. At the same time, we must be there to aware them, to talk to them, to open a dialogue with them and to be a friend with them. What I did is with my child is I did not stop him to purchase that game, but I was with him from the step one. I explained to him that this game is not for his age, it's 16 plus. At the same time, I told him I will play with you. So I am aware, I am within the same level with him. And at the same time, he will know the outcomes. So while we were playing together, he knew during the play that this is not the age that even entertained him. From this example, I would just say that being aligned with the child level, of course, they are more even smarter than parents sometimes, especially when it comes to technology. They know solutions that we might even know. So we go up to their level just to know what they're viewing, who are their friends, what do they do in the chat rooms, because most of the games have chat rooms and they might even speak to strangers, which might lead them to other issues which we don't want to even go deeper in. So having a proactive awareness in the parents is really advisable. I would also highly suggest that parents have a view or visit the website which is announced by them. I have it here just to make sure that I got the right spelling. It is sannif.ae, SANNIF.ae. It was made by the Telecommunication and the Digital Government Regulatory Authority, and the Digital Wellbeing Council, and the Digital Wellbeing. It has all type of any game that your child might know. You even can search the game and it will give you the content description of the game. So it will make, as a parent, life more easier. It will say if that game would lead to violence or profanity or intimidation or gambling or drug. So I would really recommend for every parent to have an access to this website. It is done by UAE and it was announced in 2019, I think, and this is the right time for us to be all aware about what our children are viewing.
That's very interesting, Ms. Hanadi, where we have platforms or where we have a resource that families can go back and check the safety of these games. And as you mentioned, we cannot stop our children. And in some cases, the gamifications and the digital games can increase their intelligence. As the example you mentioned, it's not about sometimes the ages. And this is how we make sure that differentiation is about reaching every student's, every child's needs. Of course, this is what I've mentioned at the beginning of the session, that even the opportunities that Sheikha Fatima bint Mubarak, al-Imarat Allah yahfadha, creates and provides the UAE community and the UAE families with opportunities for their children to play. So for example, the UAE Child Day, the UAE Families Day, the UAE Mother's Day, all these days, it's about opportunities for them to explore more ideas, how they can be in touch together, whether through playing or whether even through discussion. Discussions can create good opportunities for both child and their parents. So I have a question just regarding to the safety again. So in your department, or is this صنف related to Sharjah or to the UAE platform in general? Because you said it's صنف.ae.
Yes, it is related. It has been built through the committee that has been done or created by the Digital Wellbeing under the Ministry of Interior, I think, or the Digital Wellbeing Council. It is by UAE. It is an initiative that is done by UAE, where a group of experts did a great effort to protect our children from such, inappropriate content that, in the digital world, sometimes you cannot stop outsiders from creating and developing new games. But while having an aware parent that is always aware of what's happening, I'm sure that, of course, with what you said, the country efforts in having initiatives and having events and having seasonal collaboration with the federal and local entities, that's all unified for one goal, which is protecting our children, while of course maintaining their nature of discovering and living their normal life and playing and discovering. The most important thing is let the child have mistakes. It's okay for the child to have mistakes. And I'm not talking about mistakes that we just open channels for them and that's it. I'm talking about mistakes of, like the example that I gave, where my son did not obey what I wanted for him. If it was my choice, I wouldn't let him buy that game. But because I want to prove him that not every game is a right game for you, So I gave him the chance to have the mistake of purchasing that game, but I was with him. He was not alone. And this is the most important thing, that we are with the child. And he knows that if in case, and we might not even be there. I might have now my children at home alone, and there might be any incident where a stranger talked to them in a chat room, although I am emphasizing and focusing on not to talking to children, but you have no idea how incident like that happens, especially when it's targeting children. So what I was gonna say is the most important thing is, even if mistakes happen, it is important for the child to know that he can go back to their parents. They are number one shelter for the child when anything bad happens. Don't let them fear from us, fear from our punishment. What might happen later, or the traditional way of maybe different generation, because most parents are overprotective, which is really natural, which is really normal to be overprotective of our children. But our reaction is very important to the way we react to that child who might face a problem, or who might be having an incident where a stranger spoke to him online, or present a photo, an appropriate photo to him. The child will immediately come to that parent. And because we love our children, we should not yell or be upset. We should contain them. We contain them with love. We contain them with the advice that it's not the end of the world. Come back to me. I will be the one who will solve your problem. I will be the one who will guide you if anything happens. And that is number one reaction we want parents to have. Because if that did not happen, children will go back and will tell their problems to strangers. We need listeners. We need parents that listen to their children and not only react with anger, because at the end, that is a child. And sometimes what happened online, it's out of his control. So I hope with the education, with the awareness that we do and you do, we come up with a culture and mentality and awareness within the community, especially I'm talking about parents, to react with a high mentality and to react to contain that child, because most of the time that child will be under a huge pressure, because the way they look at things is different than the way we look at things. I would also like Dr. Samira, if do we have time to talk more about the educational field?
Yes, of course. We do have time. Just to comment on what you have said, because sure. Many parents, and always parents, are asking how we can keep our children safe from the games and from the gamifications and the digital games. Of course, as you mentioned, Ms. Hanadi, that it's not about stopping them. We cannot stop them. For one reason, and I'd like to mention it here very clearly. Theorists and educators call the generation, the digital generation, call them the native digits. While we are, as parents from the 20th century or from the last century, we are the migrant digits. So we need to believe in this, and we need to accept this, that it's their era. It's their era where they lead it and we do not lead. So who are we? We need to highlight here that we as parents are the instructors. And this means that safety can come if we follow instructions. So, for example, every game, and this is a culture of playing games, I would like every parent to pay attention to it, that the culture of the game that many people are ignoring it is reading the instructions of the game. In every game, like the instructions of the medicine, even the Panadol, which is, we got used to use it, but there are instructions for the Panadol that there are some side effects. It's the same way that we need to deal with the gamifications. Read the instructions. And this is just a comment from myself to send it to the parents. And it's not, don't consider it as an advice. It's just from experience and from a theoretical way to maintain safe. So maintaining safety is about following rules, following instructions. Always rules and instructions. Clear instructions would lead us to always maintain safe for our children. And let's always keep this in mind, and for our children as well. Let's always show them that reading instructions in everything is very important. Yes, Ms. Hanadi. So for your point about educational safety.
Yes, I would also like to comment on what you said. What you said is a really very important point, because we parents sometimes neglect the fact of those instructions are really important, and we just tick the rules and regulation. A page, I know it's like, it takes several pages for that to sign or to agree on, but it's worth it. It's worth knowing what is behind that. Every message that is sent to our children won't be clear. If I'm talking about the negative messages that would manipulate the type of children we want to raise, containing and maintaining the values and cultural heritage in UAE. Everything will always be hidden. So we must be clever, knowing those hidden messages as parents. While what you said is reading the instructions, as well as knowing the language of the game. Does that game have a specific language of fighting? What my child will benefit from fighting in a game? Why not just send him to the outdoor park and play with their cousins or friends? I know parents might be busy with nowadays. We are working mom, and generations are different than before. But again, we are facing a challenge. But that challenge, although it is so difficult, but I'm sure we can overcome it, and we can contain it, and we can as well improve and develop, because we cannot stop technology. We will go as a country, we will go with this technology. This is our vision in UAE, and as a leaders and government in UAE, we should always go with the flow in technology. We cannot stop children, but we can lead them, we can supervise them, we can be with them, we can be proactive in putting solutions while we know what our children want. I would just add the aspect of play in education. There has so many research done in terms of education, and how does that affect fostering social, emotional, intelligent, cognitive skills, comparing to the traditional way in learning. One of the study that I read was that they had two groups of children, of course, age group from nursery to 8 years old. The first group measured the achievement and the growth demonstrated by student learning under a more playful condition, while the other group demonstrated of a student were learning under the lower playful conditions. Of course, the result or the type of positive impact presented included as a conclusion from the study, they found that learning gains sustained over time on those children who learned with a higher playful conditions, as well skills transfer to novel problem were higher, more accurate recall of knowledge were there on those students, and deeper understanding of concept were maintained, and making better connections between concepts as well were maintained. So the study was done by Parker and Thomas in 2019, and it gives us a really important aspect that it is the time for us to avoid or to at least stop using the traditional way when it comes to especially the early childhood learning age group, and start to introducing games. I know some might say games and play, it is not like a very serious concept when it comes to learning. And learning, we want performance. Parents always ask about the performance and the test and assessment of that child. But believe me, this period of that child is about gaining knowledge, gaining skills, gaining social skills with peer-to-peer relationship. After that age group, after 8, after 10, when a child is more into having the basic of those skills which I mentioned, that is the time where we might go to the more serious type of learning. But like if we say about the best practice in Finland, the basic of education is not based on test or assessment, more than of cooperation between children and the skills between children, which I am hopefully and positive that in UAE in one day we will reach to that standard, especially that UAE always has set standard, always created committees, always raise awareness and creating roles and laws about how to have an impactful rules or framework or policy when it comes to children in the educational field.
Totally agree, Ms. Hanadi. Yes, this is a very important topic, which is, the educational topic that you have mentioned in this point, where there is a combination between theory and practice. So from theory to practice, this is where let's say all the parties, by all the parties, teachers, parents, colleagues, the colleagues of the classmates and the colleagues of the child, and the friends, and also sisters and brothers around him or her, all these parties together. Of course, those who create the learning community with other resources. And now we are reaching to an era that the resources evolving vastly, the resources evolving speedy. So the speed evolvement of the resources, the games and the other types of, let's say, digital games and gamifications also create opportunity for the child to be enhanced in skills and hobbies. Now, if we are going to mention a game like Minecraft is a very old game. It's a very old digital game, and most of the families, they have it very easily. They access to it very easily for their child. Okay, how many child all over the world have benefit or has benefited from this particular game like Minecraft in order to develop his or her architecture, art, math, and the literacy, so the numeracy and the literacy together.
Sure.
Again, let's think about how we can benefit our child from one game. It's not about the quantity, it's about the quality. So if I have a quality of a game or games, so this would keep me in a very comfortable zone that my child spending valuable time with a very safe game. Plus, of course, the teaching and learning in schools, of course, this one should be provided by also the platforms. For instance, the platforms, whether the platforms of the Ministry of Education, the platforms of other entities, and the other institutional learning. Moving to the last point, Ms. Hanadi, today, of course, we are talking about all these things, and which is emotional, socio playing, sociolinguistics. It's all about these domains in one. So let's go a little bit to our last point today, and the emotional improvement of the child, and the personal improvement of the child within games and within playing. So play-based learning, again, play-based learning or the gamifications. How can you see that this topic, or how can you see that this domain put impact on the child emotional life? So in another way, to what extent does learning by playing or playing-based learning provide unconditional love for children?
I would like to highlight one important point before elaborating on that. I would like to say that we must all know that play helps our children to grow emotionally because it reduces the stress and anxiety. My child, she is 10 years old. Yesterday, she asked me, what is anxiety? Imagine children at this age asking such question. She might not have anxiety or stress, but she could see the word in Google or somewhere or hear about it. So when I was 10 years, I had no idea about what this word means. Children are more aware of their emotional aspect. They're more aware of what they feel. They express more than what we used to do. So just to highlight that playing could and play a huge role in reducing stress in the children. Children in front of online, children spending 7 hours. I read yesterday that children spend 7 hours during the day in front of their devices, which is not a small number of hours. Staying in front of a device would increase anxiety and stress, would destroy and ruin the sleeping pattern and sleeping quality with the child, would ruin the eating habit, would lead to health issues. So we must be proactive in containing and being aware of all aspects before it arises and before it will happen as a problem with our children. So it is play is joyful and provides an outlet for an anxiety and stress. We must not neglect this fact. And we must know as our children, especially if we're talking about the early childhood age, which is infant to 8 years old, they're like the sponge. They're absorbing everything that comes to their way. They're copying us. If I am holding my mobile in front of them and I'm asking them to leave their devices, they will tell me, but you are holding your mobile and you're in front of your mobile. So let's think again, knowing that the children copying us, they see us as their role models. I started wearing my seatbelt back in 2017 or 18, only because I advised my child to wear her seatbelt. And when I told her that, I was not wearing it. And she said, but you're not wearing it. And she, again, like, you know how the conversation emphasized another point to me that I must do the right thing in order for my children to do the same. So since that day, I would never go in my car without a seatbelt. It's not because they're only copying me. I was wrong in not having it, and maybe we were raised not to have it there. And thankfully, the law came out in 2017 in July, where now people are having fine if not wearing seatbelts, but it's not about fines. It's about the safety of our children. It's about we have them in our car with us. So let's start with ourselves. Let's see what we're doing. Are we really emotionally, what do we say? Because at the end, what we do is contagious. Whatever we do is contagious and would go to our children. Am I not stressed? Am I emotionally stable? Am I doing the things that I want my daughter to be raised with? Those questions I would love every parent to think about, because at the end, they will do what we do. This is the reality. This is the fact. We are there, and they would only want to copy us. So, of course, it is important that we offer them unconditional love and freedom to bloom and not to stop them. At the same time, we maintain the guidance. We are the friend of those children. We are not only parents, we are friends of our children, where they can come and tell us about anything that happened during the day. I would really not encourage asking children about their grades when they come back from school. Let's ask them about something else. What is the most beautiful thing that happened during the school today? And hear from them. Hear the creative stories that you will be surprised, and how children are thirsty to talk to us. We are very busy with our devices. This is the reality, and they are very busy with their games. But let's have at least a 10-minute conversation, at least 10 minutes during the day, about something that is excluding grades, excluding punishment, excluding bad things that they did, but just open it in a very positive way and hear from them. Once you establish such a friendly relationship with your child, make sure that he will grow or she will grow in a secure environment, and he or she will grow up to have the right family when he's older or she's older. At the end, we want generations that build in a proper fundamental basics of positive behavior. And hopefully this is what we want, Dr. Samira.
Much appreciated, indeed. Thank you so much, Ms. Hanadi. And let me end this by saying that giving a child a kite and push him or her as a kite runner on the beach, this is a freedom for the child. Giving the child a dough and playing with the dough while I'm cooking and baking a cake, this is a time for testing his taste. Yeah. So providing games like Minecraft and Go Geo for the child, this is a way where we can give the child opportunity to create, innovate, and put his own arts in the arts and culture in the field of games. So education is a right for all children, no matter where and when, and is a means to help them to confront the challenges, to confront the problems in their environment, to learn and to live fulfilling and productive lives. Again, I can mention here and I can say to learn and to live fulfilling and productive lives. And games is the lifelong learning for a child from 0, not just to 8, from 0 to 18. From 0, maybe in a way, I cannot say only child. Learning by games, learning by playing, play-based learning is even a right for every learner. Thank you so much, Ms. Hanadi, for today. And again, your input in this session, much appreciated, and the special gratitudes and the special thankfulness to the General Secretariat of Khalifa Award for bringing this hot topic again. Thank you so much, and have a nice evening.
Thank you, Doctora. Thank you for everyone who worked for these sessions, the team behind the scene to make it successful. And I'm sure parents have maybe questions. I'm not sure if you're opening.
Yes, there are questions. If you have them, you can, I think, answer them. You can, yes, you can answer
Yes.
In the question and answer.
Yes.
We have just a few minutes if you'd like to answer some of the questions.
Yes, sure.
Special thanks, of course, for the attendees today. Thank you for attending the session. And I'm sure that most of them are parents.
I'm really glad the parents, the number of attendees is really high, which means there is an awareness. Yes. Parents are aware of what's going on. If they're not, they wouldn't be here with us today. And we're really honored to have you all here. And I would also invite you to know more about what we provide as Child Safety Department throughout our Instagram, which is Child Safety UAE. We always have workshops when it comes to child safety, games, and so many initiatives. Thank you, Dr. Samira. And we really look forward to have more sessions similar to that.
Sure, inshallah. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening.